Welcome, my Final Fantasy fans, to day 3 of Final Fantasy VII Coloring for 7 days. I've kind of decided to commemorate and tribute the release of the remake of Final Fantasy VII by coloring a character or two each day leading up to and on the day of the release, which is coming up as soon as you know it. It'll be here April 10th for the release of us here in the U.S. And today I am coloring Red XIII, my favorite main character of the Final Fantasy VII party. In my view, Red is kind of an underdog. I feel kind of sympathetic towards him right from the first time that we're introduced to him in the video game. If you haven't played it, I don't want to give anything away, but you kind of save him from some animal testing going on. Some scientific experiments that Shinra Corporation is conducting, not just on animals, but humans as well. And so that's how you stumble upon meeting him. And so I felt bad for him right from the get-go. So amidst feeling sorry for him, I like him because he's a strong character. He's a fierce character, but he's also reserved. He does interject into conversations when he has something important and significant to give to the party, but he's not like a chatty Cathy. And maybe that's why I can relate to him. I know I talk a lot on these videos, but generally that's not how I am in real life. So maybe that's how I connect with Red XIII. But like I said, Red does speak English. He converses with the rest of the party normally. He can speak and communicate just like any of the other characters, despite being a canine. He's kind of a wolf-type species who walks on 4 legs. Red also has a scarred eye where his right eye is missing. And then another feature that I think is really neat of the character design is the tip of his tail is on fire. It's a flame. And you've kind of probably noticed by the coloring already that his coloring and fur is this bright, fiery red-orange color. You can't see it in this view, but he does also have the Roman numeral 13 tattooed or branded on him. And I think that is where his name Red 13 came from, because the scientist who was conducting the experiments on him gave him that label as a specimen name. But Red's real name is Nanaki, and he definitely has a tribal heritage about him. He comes from the place called Cosmo Canyon, and Cosmo Canyon has this very tribal vibe about it. The music is very percussion oriented, starts with some strong drums and then adds in some wind and stringed instruments. It's one of my favorite songs on the soundtrack. Some of the other symbolism that is around Cosmo Canyon, other tattoos, they have artwork like beading and feathers, and so you really get this tribal vibe and heritage when you go to Cosmo Canyon, and it's a beautiful scene. It's like during the sunset, so more of the same fiery red orangey colors that are in Red 13. A little bit of a sidetrack again, since I'm such a music lover of Final Fantasy. I do think that Nobuo does a great job, and the game producers do a great job identifying each character with like their own theme of music. So like whenever it's part of the story for Red 13, you hear either the Cosmo Canyon music or a variation of that music. So same with all the other characters, they have kind of their own theme music, which I think sets a really good tone, and it's a good indicator of who they're going to be talking about. Same with the towns and the atmospheres of the towns. Like when you walk into a town, you can tell if it feels cheery and homey or relaxed atmosphere. You can kind of let your guard down most of the time, and you don't have to worry about those random encounters by attacking monsters and wondering if you're going to die. But you can feel like you're in a tranquil place. The music is usually quiet, calming, peaceful, and you can really tell the atmosphere by the music. So that was a little bit of a side note, but back on to learning a little bit about Red 13. His background is he is an orphan, and as you go out throughout his storyline, you'll get to learn more about his past, his father, and why Red 13 feels some shame for his family history, and why he has some negative feelings towards humans. And you're going to learn what his reasoning is behind that. And I'm not going to ruin the story for you. You'll just have to play it yourself if you haven't already. So, and the remake. Go play the remake. I guess lastly, about my own personal feelings for Red 13, I really like him, and he's my favorite character because he's just so cute. I mean, look at that face. He's looking fierce right here, but he just looks cute and cuddly, like he could be your pet or your best friend. Red is incredibly intelligent, and throughout his story, you learn that he is honorable. He cares a lot about his family honor, and really down to earth. And then, like I mentioned earlier, he only really talks when he has something worth being said, and I can kind of relate to that. So for this last bit, I looked up a little bit of trivia on Red 13 just so I could learn something new. I learned that it was the character designer Tetsuya Nomura's idea to have a party member who was a four-legged party member. But that then resulted in some challenges for the animators, like when the party is climbing ladders. How do you have a four-legged character climbing ladders? And then when his body or his tail turned around, sometimes it would glitch and look like his tail was inside the wall or his body was inside the wall. So as cute as he is, it made some challenges. Also, Tetsuya Nomura he's the Final Fantasy character designer, and he chose the name Red 13 because he didn't want a typical or a conventional name for this character. So he chose the color and then the number 13, which is believed to be unlucky, I guess. So the other staff members of the Final Fantasy staff are the ones that gave him his true name, Nanaki. Another thing I learned was that Red was going to have his own subplot. I did not know this, that the scientists experimenting on Red would have resulted in cloning him. And so there would have been lots of different Red 13s, except they would have been cobalt and indigo and who knows what other colors. But the subplot would have your party fighting against some of them, and then you would have to choose which one was the real or the original Red 13. I learned that Red is almost always viewed from his left side, which is the side of his good eye, so you hardly ever see the side with his scar on it. And then in the prequel, Before Crisis, you can see him and he still has both of his eyes. Also, before the original Final Fantasy game was released, there's a screenshot shown of Red 13 with his name written in Arabic numerals instead of Roman numerals. I don't even know what Arabic numerals look like. This last one was interesting for me to learn since Red is my favorite character, but he has such limited and short screen time in the most recent animations and the most recent sequels, because his fur is such a challenge and it's so costly to animate. So that's good to know, but I really wish they would show him more. So guys, that wraps up day 3 of the 7 days of Final Fantasy VII coloring. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll be notified anytime that my new coloring and new videos come out, and we'll see you later.